Welcome to the Common Time Podcast, a show designed to give music educators practical, inspiring ideas for you and your program. Each week, we sit down with world-class educators, composers, and conductors to talk about teaching, leadership, and building programs that thrive without burning yourself out.
So whether you're a band, orchestra, or choir director, our goal is simple: to help you grow and stay inspired and remember why you fell in love with teaching music in the first place.
This is season 4, and we're diving even deeper. More real conversations, more actionable takeaways, and more voices shaping the future of music education. Let's get into the episode. Our guest today is Darrin Davis. Welcome, Darrin.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Doing fantastic. We're so happy to have you on. Darrin has been with the Broken Arrow Public Schools since 1993 as the director of bands and now as executive director of fine arts. He leads a team of 89 fine arts teachers and over 6,000 secondary students. So we're excited to talk to him about his experiences and leadership in this program and all the success he's had. John, why don't you get us started?
Thanks, David. Hi, Darrin. Always good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too. It's
So
been a while.
it has been, so I'm just gonna dive right in. So being a part of the Broken Arrows fine arts community for decades, first with shaping ensembles from the podium, but now guiding every program in the entire district. How has your artistry or your artistic identity evolved through this journey? And then who has influenced your leadership, both leadership style and also as a musical leader?
Wow, those are great questions, and they've really have hit core to me transitioning from the podium with thinking of my group, my ensemble, to a much larger lens of a broader range of students from all different disciplines in the fine arts. And to put it mildly, we're used to creative teachers that very much have personalities, and managing 89 of them is not the easiest task in the world.
I can't even imagine.
Right. Yeah, that's
But
crazy.
over time, I felt like, that the identity has really changed with what I do with the Broken Arrow, not only just the bands, but now with a bigger lens of creating culture building and staff development. And at the core of all that is creating great experiences for students and student ownership within that. I've learned that it's more important how we treat people as matters just as much as how our students perform, and that is kind of a guiding factor that moves me with all those creative voices of teachers and all those students that we're fortunate to have a lot of them in many different disciplines here at Broken Arrow. And to be a small part of seeing those successes with our performing arts and a broader range, all of our fine arts into visual art and speech and debate, theater, or band, choir, orchestra, or just all different cogs in the wheel that really make our community really special in who it is. And when I took that over a few years ago, it was very much programs that were in silos, that were more concerned with their individuality and less about the broader reach to our stakeholders in the community and in our educational realm. So it's really been a task that I've really enjoyed, and hopefully I feel like that we're making a difference.
Yeah, I love that you just we're going to dive into that. I have another question on my mind, but I want to dive into this one first because you mentioned silos. And I was reading a book just recently about breaking down silos in the business world. But I'm curious, like you mentioned, like there were silos, and obviously there's been some changes in your culture or something that you've done to break down some of those silos. Could you talk to us a little bit about what that has been like?
Well, it's been about creating camaraderie, first off, with all the different disciplines of teachers. There was a time where it was, leave me alone. I need to focus on what I need to do with my group and my ensemble rather than, particularly, we're mindful to band directors, right? Everyone wants our students. They want them to be a part of the full orchestra, to maybe play with a show choir, to play in the orchestra pit for the theater performances, the musical theater performances, all the community establishment, things that are important to our stakeholders. And at some level, it was easy to be in a silo to go, when can I just focus on band and, music education for my band kids? But now that I've moved to a different seat, you see how important those opportunities are, and I think
Right.
it's really been, an education through the teachers that we're stronger when we work together instead of work against each other.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree. That's something that has begun resonating with me more probably in the last decade of my life and teaching. Like when I was younger, I don't say that I purposefully was siloed, but I was so focused on what I was doing that what someone else was doing was really, it seemed irrelevant to me. And looking back, like it actually was quite relevant and quite a few missed opportunities because I was in my own
Mm.
silo. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that you're doing that task and that work with Broken Arrows groups. Thinking about Broken Arrow nationally, I mean, it carries a national reputation. You've been there, is this about 33, 34 years ish?
Yeah, longer than the internet.
Yeah, so it's been, you've been there for a while, and with that, I would assume comes a unique level of pressure for the teachers and the students. So I'm curious, how do you help everyone stay grounded in the process while still navigating the expectations and, what kind of mindset shift helps them stay balanced in all of this high pressure, broken arrow, here we are kind of, these seasons that you guys put together?
Yeah, that's something that I think that teachers, music teachers, band directors across America deal with on different levels every single day.
Mhm.
Pressure is real, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be paralyzing. It can, I think, reframe expectations as opportunities, um, while I think maybe grounding the students and teachers into the things that we can control.
Mm.
And so, a national reputation brings pride, but it also brings pressure. There's no doubt. You know, so we openly acknowledge that pressure, and we don't feel and don't pretend that pressure doesn't exist. But I think the mindset had to shift from we have to live up to something to we get to pursue something really meaningful together. And I think those opportunities and that kind of mindset shift, it definitely, when I was in the seat as a band director, it's totally changed my joy in the job to
Hmm.
being felt like something was beaten down on me at all times to something that I felt like we could really make something meaningful with students and really be uplifting. And that's, you know, um, over the course of a 30-year career, there's about halfway point in my career where, I felt the opposite. And then something, I don't know where that light bulb turned on, that we started to evolve into that mindset that we have now. It's made the job more enjoyable than I could ever possibly imagine.
Right. I love that.
Yeah, I was just as I was hearing you answer that question. I remember working with your band a long time ago, when I was uh, living in Norman, and I would come out and just watch you teach. And you were, even though there was all this like national pressure on you, and the expectations are extraordinarily high, it, at least outwardly, I didn't ever see it get to you. You have been a role model for me because my own program has its national exposure and high pressure situations, and to kind of meet a standard, right? But I've always looked up to that because I mean it's easy to feel the weight and then be a bad person. So how did you get through that?
Um, that's a really great question.
Yeah.
And I'll pause just for a minute just to say that, what you see on the inside may not be always what you see on the
I
outside.
understand. I get that.
I mean, that's a Davis family trait. My father is the king of that, you can't read what's happening on the inside at some level. Love you, Dad. But, process and pressure, when groups and people stay focused on the process, the pressure loses its power.
Mm.
Because
Mm.
confidence, comes from preparation, not expectations.
Right.
And those opportunities to be influenced by others that I've seen that I have always admired, have really helped, I think, to consistently bring people back to it's about preparation, it's about the effort, it's about the growth and the process. If that's focused on, it seems like the outcomes kind of take care of themselves. The most pressured that I think I've ever felt were before two concert performances leading up to a Midwest Clinic concert performance with my wind ensemble, and leading up to basically turning my ensemble over to 9 guest conductors at the ABA, the American
Right.
Bandmasters Association conference performance. Um, t- that was a sense of pressure, but it was a sense of obligation that I wanted to create just some amazing experiences for those students, and their performances that are a landmark in my memories of the experiences that we had uh, leading us up to that performance. The performance was great. I'm going to remember those for a long time, but I'll remember those kids for how hard they worked through those pressures and the process. So I don't know if I really answered the question,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it
because
seems like something that every one of us deal with at some level.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hearing how you are approaching this from a perspective of building culture, right? Building a culture to be successful, to navigate these challenges. And I would argue that it's this culture that has helped shape the fine arts culture, or excuse me, the fine arts success, and how that is respected across the country. So, do you have any other values or habits that you've built into that culture over the years that's helped sustain the a level of excellence of the Broken Arrow bands that's been around for a long time?
Well, I mean, we know this, what culture isn't built in a day, but it can certainly be torn down,
Yeah.
instantly.
Yeah. That's
They
true.
take long opportunities to build those processes and those expectations. But excellence is something that you don't just turn on for performance. It's something you practice every day, and through preparation and how you communicate and how you treat people. Um, and those become the guiding things that have really mattered to me, about, people before programs, feeling like you belong before talent or benchmarks. Kids matter far more on, we have to meet them where those students are, and then maybe see the best in them when they don't see the best in themselves,
Mhm.
is something to think about as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I love the people before. Like something that's been resonating with me for quite a while now. People come first in what we're doing. Um, I want to shift just a little bit into, since you're now overseeing so many other art teachers. We have artistic teachers. We have elementary, middle school, high school, all feeding into one another. So I'm assuming that consistency in communication become very essential since you're in this role now. So I'm curious, what does great collaboration look like across your campuses? And how do you create this shared musical and educational values that you're talking about?
Well, I think as a teacher who's been in the grind, one of the last things you want are meetings for the meetings of meeting's sake. How many times did we finish something like, well, that could have been an email, so time is valuable, but I think in my role, it's been about, feeling like that all of my teachers are heard, that there's someone that's in their corner, um, and that the non-negotiables that we have within our program are seen as being consistent, but not telling teachers how they have to teach. So there it becomes then what we create, I guess, what a shared vocabulary, that we have mutual respect for different teaching styles, but the curriculum's the curriculum, the benchmarks, the learner outcomes and expectations, those don't change, but those are tools that allow our teachers to be creative with how they get there. And I've never felt like that we need to be controlling that we all teach the same way. And I think that loses the individuality of the teacher, and I think then they don't feel like they're supportive and they're a part of a machine rather than get to be their creative selves, to inspire their students along the way. Um, so I think when our teachers feel supported and trusted, then that collaboration comes naturally. One of the things that I do is just simply I just keep a notes file open on my phone, and every time I'm in a classroom or around the district or on my own and something strikes me, I'll just add to that, and then I kind of take that, what I've put down for the last month, and put myself in the seat of what's happening for teachers in in the next 4 weeks. And I do a monthly check-in with all of our fine arts and try to write a document that's not lengthy to read, but it establishes those kind of non-negotiables, the things I think that we can do better, but I want them to feel the joy in what their job is and not
Right.
lose sight of those pressures in the job that takes them away from it's a privilege. It's a gift for us to get to teach kids every day and to show them our passion of the fine arts, and particularly with music and band, how we can inspire those kids to do something that they never thought was possible.
I
Mm.
couldn't agree more with that. And you know, you're talking about student needs, and so as you oversee quite a few things in the school district now, right? And so you have an advantage of seeing the specific needs that today's learners have across all the fine arts disciplines, right? And by specific age group. So in your experience, I'm curious, what has changed about the needs of students from their fine arts experience, and then and like also do they respond differently now, and specifically what do they need now comparative to a decade ago? Or I mean, where are you seeing these changes and trends?
Well, how many times have we heard since the COVID pandemic that kids are different now and need different skills and need different connections now than they ever did before? But it's also like shined a bigger light on, the three of us, the experiences we may have had as young musicians. Some of those techniques they don't work
Work.
in today's
They
age.
don't work.
And so, today's students, they want what they want: purpose, and they want connection with each other. They do respond to authenticity, but not authority.
Mm.
That fine arts needs to be a place that they belong.
Mm.
And so students today, navigating those pressures and those distractions that they have, they're far more now than ever before, but they seem to respond, as we all know, far less to those, probably the techniques that we were taught with, which was maybe more fear-based motivation, and respond so much more to belonging, to having a voice, to that authentic connection to a teacher. But
Yeah.
what hasn't changed from when I was a student to when I started teaching to now is, I believe, are that students will still want to belong to something great. They want to belong to something that's meaningful and has relationships,
Mm.
and we can't discount the social aspect of what band and the arts does for students,
Hmm.
as much as we need to help them gain those life lessons. But hopefully it's through music and it's through the skills that we teach, and so they seem to thrive the most, you know when they feel seen. Now
Mm.
they want to have a voice, and they want to know that their individuality does matter. um, they still respond well, I think, in today's age, still when expectations are clear. That hasn't changed. um, but excellence and empathy can coexist, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
um, so
That's a
those are just
critical
some of my
No,
thoughts. I'm
that's
just kind of rambling here, but yeah,
no,
that's
there's some really great nuggets in there. You started off with authenticity over authority. Man, that should hang that on a wall.
Yeah.
Like it's a great one to just remind yourself every day when you walk into a classroom. Authenticity is going to resonate more. You also talked about belonging, that's something that's been on my mind recently. Is that students we require belonging before risk. Like if they're going to take risks, if we're going to ask them to take risks, they're not going to do that really before they feel the sense of belonging. So it's something to really
And
continue to
trust.
hone in
Yeah.
on. Yeah, it's just a kind of a trust issue, I guess. That kind of
it,
leads
it,
me to my next question. Yeah, go. No, go ahead.
well, I was just going to make another point that's something that I've thought about a lot, and I mentioned that just a couple times. Is you know, I mean, teachers that taught me, they inspired me. They're the reason that I'm into music. But some of the processes that were in place
Yeah.
when I was a student just would not work today. And we probably resonated with some of those at some different level, but we're far better teachers now because I can't ever imagine, as much as I loved my high school band director, and he's the reason I'm in this. I don't think that he ever would have said, "How do you think we should turn this phrase here? What are your ideas?" I don't think that,
Right.
we would never had collaborative
Yeah.
ensemble concert band rehearsals like we do now.
Yeah,
I
it is, and
just
I actually love the aspect of how we're shifting toward more collaboration inside the rehearsals, and not everybody's there yet, but at the I'm seeing it more and more. Um, but it's I did an honor band this past weekend, and it was very interesting trying to get the kids to also collaborate with themselves to say, "Okay, I'm hearing something here. I want you to talk to your neighbor for 10 seconds about what you're hearing, and then we're going to discuss that." And it was a little of them looking at me like, "What?" You're gonna you're asking us to tell our neighbor something? And I said, "Yeah, I want you to tell them something really positive that you're hearing from them, and then what are you hearing that's not working so well? And then let's gravitate to the top 3 and let's work on those." And it was almost like, you're not just gonna tell us what you want us to do?" Like, "Not this time." It was very interesting to kinda see their eyes, but after they became more relaxed in that setting, it was engaging. I think they enjoyed it more than me just telling them what to do. So
I think
kind of
that's
a
where students are evolving to, right? They want to have. I think they internalize the experience more when they are invested into their participation, not just from a single artist, but to having a voice that everyone can hear. And
yeah,
that's important, and I didn't teach like that when I first started teaching
right.
30 years ago. That's something that has been learned over time.
mm, that's true.
That's the same way, when I started, I was a carbon copy of my high school band director, like, literally a carbon copy, and it was very different back then. It was much more I don't wanna say it was a dictatorship, but it was kind of like that, and we didn't think he was
Yeah.
mean. It was
Well,
almost more like being in the military.
you know,
He's the
I've
boss, we
often
do what we're told.
thought about maybe going back to my predecessor style uh, of Ravelli. Maybe I
Good
should
luck.
try that approach.
Well, I used to say that, some of the experiences I had growing up, and maybe when I first started teaching, we would call it the illusion of democracy.
Yeah,
In the ensemble, but it was definitely came down that, in those early days and that early style, it was more about, teach from the podium and not from,
right.
have those multiple voices, and we have to be proud of our craft and art form, that we keep seeing it evolve into being that collaborative style, and I think it's just going to get stronger. That I'm so encouraged by young teachers. I see that they're being trained, to start at that level, rather than that
Right.
being a skill that you've learned as a teacher through
Yeah,
experience. So
cool.
that,
Yeah,
great. That's speaks a lot for higher education, what they're doing to prepare teachers to be ready for the real world.
it does, absolutely. So, now I'm gonna take a complete left turn. Um, Kinda going back to your position in the as a executive director of fine arts, I'm curious how you design growth experience that balance the sort of the high level excellence also with the broad need for equitable access for all students. And I know that's a left turn, but we're talking about culture, but we also in today's world kind of talking about how do we reach every student as well. And sometimes in our programs we have high level expectations and we see some individuals left behind. So I'm just curious how you deal with that in Broken Arrow.
Well, that's really interesting, and that's where we are right now, right?
Mhm.
High standards and open doors, I don't think, have to be opposites. That I think excellence can be a pathway, but not the gateway to get to. So, standards matter, and but students are at so many different levels, and so, you know it has to be important, I think, to design opportunities that stretch our most advanced students while they cater to our very emerging students into
Mm.
into a new level of proficiency, whether it's skills. But at the core of that is there has to be value, in the growth at every level. And that was in my last check-in that I do monthly with my fine arts teachers, because when I sent it out December whatever one. It was whatever that first Monday was that we came back from the Thanksgiving break. Which, as performing arts teachers, we know it's performance palooza, right? That's everyone's in the moment of the performances, and so there's a level of stress for the teachers, but it's an opportunity for us to share. Um, our students just share their achievements regardless of level. And so success can, I think, can look different for different students, and that has to be entirely okay. Um, you know, we're fortunate at Broken Arrow that we have in the 10 through 12 campus, there's 5 concert bands. The level of success for the top level wind ensemble looks different than it does for the 4th band, and it doesn't mean that we teach those bands any differently, but we feel like it's an opportunity to meet the students where they're at, and to make that access intentional, and where I think by that then excellence becomes sustainable. I don't think it's a very good answer, but I feel like that not every ensemble across America is at the level of the Broken Arrow Wind Ensemble, and that's okay. And students at all different levels of ability and their resources can make musical, aesthetic, memorable moments that that they'll carry with them for a lifetime. You know, I mean, we talk about marching band quite a bit. That students will remember how they felt with their peers long after they'll remember what their score was or their placement was at a contest, and that doesn't change when we're inside with the concert ensembles. You know, so build those experiences through music and let the standard, the excellence become the pathway, not just the gate or the finish line.
That absolutely resonates. Yeah.
Indeed. You know, so now I'm also going to turn a bit to student leadership and engagement. So because Broken Arrow as a school district is quite large, and then also outside of that, across the country, with all have you worked with students both with concert band and marching band. With your experience in seeing the wide varieties of approaches to student leadership and engagement, do you have any recommendations for our listeners about routines or systems that you've seen that have genuinely empowered students to take responsibility for their learning across the fine arts program?
Well, yeah, I definitely think that there are influences that we've had, and there's things that matter to me. And what matters to me keeps changing. I've really resonated to the Apple TV, the Apple Plus, whatever series that was Ted Lasso, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's so many leadership lessons that can come through, that series and that show about, I love the be curious, not judgmental. I mean, that's very much a Ted Lassoism, right? So I think some, things that really matter to me is something that I'll is a line that I steal from my great friend Scott Lang. The more you give, the more you get. The more you give to something, the more value you'll get to that as a leader or part of an ensemble. But the inverse of that is also true. That the more you get, the more you have to give back to the group.
Right.
That leadership is not a title or a power; it's a service, and students must model the culture, or it becomes the culture is diminished by what students allow through integrity through the program. So student leadership works best when it's, I think, related to life and to what the, are what are going to be those life skills. It's probably most effective when, those systems include, you have to have clear expectations, give students real responsibility and a chance to succeed or a chance to fail. And then those failures become, teaching moments. They become, moments to having some adult mentorship along the way. So, that's a long-winded way to say, I hope that we encourage students to lead by example, to serve their peers, and to not be afraid to take ownership. I used to be that teacher that took the mindset of, if you want anything done right, you have to do it yourself. And the more that I set some non-negotiables with students and with my teachers, I empowered my staff, and I gave my students more ownership into the program. And it's when we took an immediate, another, kind of rise in what I thought was the overall experience throughout the program. So students feeling trusted, I think is core to all of that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Um, so just thinking again about your over 3 decades now with Broken Arrow, we've been talking about students. You've watched multiple generations now of students that have come through the programs. You said before the internet was a thing. And I remember those days. Like a lot has changed. So I'm curious now. I'm kind of more inspirational here. What continues to drive you? What inspires your work? And when you look ahead to the next decade, both not just for Broken Arrow, but for just music education broadly, what excites you the most?
Um, I think it's, with my transition from director of bands to director of fine arts, I think my biggest, what inspires me is to hopefully leave a legacy through people. That my predecessor as director of bands, 2 people before me was Tom Stout. A legend here in
Mhm. Yeah.
Oklahoma, and he would always say that our band program's in a constant state of construction. We never feel like we've arrived. We're always looking for that opportunity to grow and get better. And I've kind of taken that with a bigger lens through looking at all of our fine arts programs. So I'm incredibly optimistic about fine arts education and where it's headed. Because what still inspires me every day is watching students discover who they are as
Mm.
people. Getting those experiences through the humanities is our discipline is what allows all the what they call would call the core subjects to have something to read and write about. And
Yeah.
so as we grow together through recognition, it's that we know that I have a very supportive board of education and the superintendent, that they see the fine arts as essential and not extra.
Mm.
Um,
That's
that
wonderful.
that we're always having new ways to connect with students. And I think the next decade is going to be about you know um, maintaining our purpose or redefining what the needs are for kids as we meet them in the next decade, um, to be sustainable for our teachers, where they're, I'm disheartened by the burnout that I see of young teachers, young, very talented teachers that end up leaving the profession. And as a fine arts director, I want our teachers to feel valued and to feel like this is a place that they can't wait to go to work. That they have purpose, and keeping the heart of the work front and center. Um, you know, um, I, I was trying to think of a quote that I put in that last newsletter that I sent out to our fine arts teachers, but it went something like, at its best, the fine arts education isn't just about what students perform; it's about who they become through the process.
Mm.
And that's what inspires me to come to work every day and to have these new opportunities, because I'll be honest, in my administrative role now, I'm on the podium less now than ever. I get to come as
Mm.
a guest every now and then, and do some concert cycles, and I get to opportunity to work with a lot of teachers, but I don't want to lose that opportunity that makes me feel creative and
Mm.
allows me to share my artistic
Right.
approach with students. And so I've got some things that are happening in the future that are we're going to, I think, rekindle and like lit the fire. It's not out at all. It's just I feel like it's going to burn even
Sure.
stronger as I get some opportunities to not just help teachers and programs in Broken Arrow, but maybe have a broader reach
Right.
with other
I
programs
think,
across America.
yeah, I saw you post something recently that you just launched. I'm happy to let you plug that if you want to plug it here. I know it sounds like an incredible opportunity for educators out there. So tell us about it.
Well, it's something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and has been in the process for quite some time. But I just launched first week of December. So here recently, what is called Davis Signature Arts, which is an LLC, and you can see us on social media at Davis Signature Arts and on the web at davissignaturearts.com. And it's opportunities to allow teachers to feel supported, to inspire students, and to strengthen the base of programs is kind of what our mission is. And I think that that's a broad reach to share a lot of what we've talked about here over the last hour or so that is really important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you're out there, look that up, take a look, and get signed up.
It's going to be great. So, all right, Darrin, now's the time of the interview where we transition to asking all of our guests a couple questions, and I'll take the first one. Do you have a soapbox topic?
Soapbox topic. How fundamental do you want this to be?
Whatever you're thinking.
It can be anything you want. It's wide open. We've seen it go far left, far right. It's whatever you like.
Music's not about notes and rhythms. It's about shaping phrases. And regardless of the level of the performer, students can have a phrase direction. So make our as we get ready for performances, don't talk so much about the what and the how, but the why. Why does a phrase move this way? And let students, whether they're beginners or high school seniors, let them make music.
Right. The why is important. Sometimes I think we get caught up in the weeds, as teachers, and like trying to check those boxes, and we forget to even talk about the why. So I think that's a perfect soapbox. So thank you for sharing that. I take the next one. Is there a particular book or books that you that have resonated or inspired you in your journey? They don't have to be musical, just things that you could share with our listeners that they might enjoy as well.
Well, this will sound like a big retro, is the Joy of Inspired Teaching by Tim Lotzenheiser. I know Tim so well, and I know that there's fewer leadership clinics ahead of him than what behind him. And so I'm very nostalgic. And I just reread that the Joy of Inspired Teaching by Tim. And it's kind of helped ground me on more of those same things that you were just talking about, David, the whys of what we do rather than getting into the weeds. So go check that one out. That's an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah, honestly, if you haven't read that or you haven't read it recently, it is worth reading again. It's a good reminder. I think that's a book you should read like every 4 or 5 years just to be like, okay.
And for anybody listening, we interviewed Tim Lotzenheiser at the beginning of season 3. Everyone should go back and check out that conversation. It was incredibly inspiring, for sure.
Yeah, I love talking to him every time. I love being around him every time you get to see him.
All right, so I'll take the final question, and arguably, Darrin, the most important. So what's your favorite time signature?
Think carefully.
So I'll be judged on this, correct?
Yeah, there is a right and a wrong here.
Who doesn't love a good flow of a piece in 7/8?
That's a very popular one.
The clear winner.
It's a popular one.
It is a very popular. So our first episode ever was with Jerry Junkin, and that was Jerry's. Jerry was 7/8. And then from that point forward, I bet if we went back and looked, it's 90% of our guests.
We should measure this. We should talk to the producers about that.
Yeah, we should start having like a competition.
A meter.
So,
hey, my entire career, I've tried to follow in the footsteps of Jerry Junkin. So if I've made a comment that Jerry did, I'll take that as a win.
You're in alignment on 7/8. So unfortunately, both you and Jerry were wrong. The answer is common time. That's just between us. So. Darrin, thank you so much for being on with us today. This has been a great conversation. Lots of wonderful insights that I'm really looking forward to getting out there for our listeners. And like your insights over 3.5 decades or so are, I think that's immeasurable. It's
incredible.
Hard to.
It's absolutely.
It's hard some to think about like all the changes that have happened in life as a teacher, and you've been able to encapsulate those so beautifully for us today. So I really appreciate you being with us.
I respect both of you so much, and I've known John for a long time, and David, our paths keep crossing all the time with each other. So I really love it that we got a chance to visit today.
It was good seeing you. We're gonna, I think we'll just call it a day.
To wrap it up, Darrin, thank you so much.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks for spending part of your day with us on the Common Time Podcast. If today's conversation gave you something to think about or something to try with your students, we'd love for you to share this episode with a colleague.
And you can also follow us on social media for episode clips, behind-the-scenes content, and updates to our upcoming guests. And if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode.
Until next time, keep making music and keep making a difference.